Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Virtual Village. This is our season finale, episode 9. My name is Garner, and I serve as the engagement lead tonight. But even before we start this conversation, we just want to thank you all sincerely for being a part of our Virtual Village episodes since April 2020. And you have been consistent with us, and so we thank you for your support. Tonight's episode is entitled Millennials Making Meaning. So we're going to have a snippet of how the Eagle Academy Foundation has created philanthropic spaces for young professionals of color to support the causes of Black and brown male achievement. So I have had the distinction as the engagement lead for the Eagle Academy Foundation to recruit talent all across New York City to support our Eagle Scholars across our 6 network schools. And tonight I am excited to introduce 5 dynamic professionals from diverse areas to lead this conversation. We have Ivy League graduates on this episode. We have some HBCU grads on this episode. We have entrepreneurs. We have so many people who are doing more than one things with their lives. And so we're just so excited for them to be on this conversation. So without further ado, I want to have them introduce themselves before we start our episode, and then we'll dive right into our conversation. And we'll start immediately with Andrew.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Andrew Robotham. I'm an engineer. I graduated from Virginia State University, did my undergrad there, and I'm currently one of the co-chairs on the junior board.
Christina.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Christina Mitchell. I'm originally from the Philadelphia area. I graduated from the University of Pennsylvania for undergrad and the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill with my master's. I've been in New York City for about 7 years now, and I work in the healthcare industry and work for a health insurance company that provides coverage to over 25,000 lives in New York State.
Awesome. Brother Ali, you're next.
How you doing, everyone? My name is Ali Banks. I'm a business consultant with the MTA Small Business Development Program. We help MWBE certified contractors win awards with the MTA. There's a lot of government contracts out there, and we're taking full advantage of that. Within the last 10 years, we've done at least $446 million worth of contracts to these certified firms. So happy to be here with my peers, and I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent, excellent. Tanisha, we'll go with you next.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Tanisha Colon-Bibb. I am a native Harlemite. I'm from Harlem, New York, born and raised. I attended Spelman College for my undergrad. And currently I'm a communications professional and entrepreneur with my own public relations company, Rebelle Agency, headquartered in New York. We also do work in Los Angeles and Atlanta, Georgia, my second home. I'm really excited to join my peers tonight to talk about millennials making meaning. I joined Andrew as the co-chair of the Eagle Junior Board, and I'm just excited to talk about what we have planned for the year. As things become normal or we find a new norm, we don't really know.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tanisha. And last but certainly not least, Keenan Williams.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Keenan Williams. I am a proud supporter of the Eagle Academy family, from the earliest school in the Bronx to the growth of the model to cover 6 locations, and a huge supporter of all the people that have been teaching, coaching, counseling, and supporting the students. I'm a Philadelphia native, a proud FAMU grad, and co-founder of a real estate tech company in New York that makes it easy to rent apartments within 5 minutes or less from your phone.
Awesome, awesome. So as you all can see, we have some dynamic and diverse talent that comprises of our Eagle Academy Junior Board, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. So let's start off the conversation, and I want to open the floor, and I want everyone to briefly, share your sentiments regarding this question. Why did you decide to be a part of the Eagle movement? Talk to me, Christina. Why did you decide to amidst all of the things that you are a part of, be a part of the Eagle movement? Can't hear from her. Ali, can you take the floor?
Yeah, so my story is a little bit different from everyone else's. I was, I had no other choice but to be a part of Eagle. My dad started the school along with the 100 Black men. And, in the early days, we had to do the Saturday school. So he dragged me along to do that. And when I was in high school, I was not big on that at all. I didn't want to go to school on Saturday. I hated it, but I made a lot of great connections, and Eagle is just, trailblazer. It's nothing like Eagle, to go head on and face the, the prison pipeline. Eagle is the number one choice. And I figure, how can you not get down with Eagle? It's the best choice.
I love it. Love it. And I'm going to talk a little bit more with you later, Ali, about, your connection given that Mr. Banks is your father. So I'm going to save that question for later. Thank you for sharing. Tanisha, let me hear a little bit from you about why did you decide to be a part of the Eagle movement?
Yeah, I think this question takes me back to that night that you and Andrew, asked me why I wanted to be a part and kind of wanted a little bit of a deep dive into that. And I think I led with something then that is just as true now, is that like my love and appreciation of Black men, right? Yeah. And that starts with a support and guidance of young Black men and Black boys. I, of course, have brothers, I have a father, I have uncles, I have a nephew, cousins from the block, which is, blood cousins and block cousins of young Black men that I just want to see thrive. You know what I mean? Of course, we're all overrun with content that shows our Black boys being murdered on the streets, accosted on a daily. And whenever I see a young Black boy living joyously, we have hashtag Black Boy Joy, it just sparks something in me that makes me so happy, because I do truly see the Black man as the, head of our household and our culture. And I think that as Black women, there's a lot of discussion about how much we support and how much we should support, but at the end of the day, we should support, period. And so that's where I stand, and I'm happy to do so. And I'm happy to be a face and person that they can lean on and be a guidance to them. So that's why I do it.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you for your response. Andrew, let me hear from you.
Yeah, I mean, I joined because I really wanted to empower and mentor young males, men of color. Being a young man of color myself, kind of understand the difficulties that really go on with that in this country. So I really wanted to use my own personal professional experiences to pretty much provide like a map for these young men so they can navigate through situations much easier than someone that didn't have that type of mentorship. So mentorship is big for me, and that's really why I'm getting involved and really want to see this thing going.
Absolutely. Keenan.
Hey. My answer is a little bit different because I had no familiarity with Eagle Academy before I met David Banks. So mine was genuine happenstance. I was friends with a teacher at the Bronx location, came just to meet the classroom of kids, ran into David Banks walking out of that classroom on the third floor, had a very direct chat that was extremely authentic and vulnerable for someone that truly met a stranger in a hallway. And we took that conversation from the hallway. We sat in his office, and for 45 minutes, we just riffed on the forecast and the vision of what is to come for Black men, period, not just the Eagle Academy Foundation. And when I tell you I drunk all the Kool-Aid possible, because it's quite hard to sit in front of David Banks and not, I bought into what I thought was something that was collaborative, and that was just tip of the iceberg. What I thought was going to be collaborative between he and I, he had a vision for an entire board of young professionals to take on a second layer of leadership and be the face and champion of what the efforts are on a much more grounded level. So for what the board would be doing at a very high executive level, he had a vision of a group of young people being literally boots on the ground, championing the sound and the gospel of Eagle. And when he tapped me on the shoulder in that moment to put it together, I intelligently leaned on my cousin, Donald Garner. And we built it. And so it's really a full circle moment to be on this call in 2020, knowing what that conversation was like, 6 years ago, Don?
No, 8 years ago.
Eight, excuse me. Yeah, almost a decade ago. And so to be here now while it's going that strong, we're living the dream that David casted upon us all.
And Keenan, we're gonna pivot to that momentarily after Christina weighs in. But actually it was 9 years ago, so almost a decade.
There we go, yeah.
And so
thanks.
Talk to us a little bit about why Eagle, why did you decide to be a part of this illustrious movement that we have going on?
It's because I believe in what young Black men need, which is exposure. I think the key word that was resounding to me and most of the senior leadership, if not all, including Mr. Banks, was that E word. Exposure was something that was really simple. I had a case study. I forgot the young man's name, and I'm kicking myself. I know it's my phone. He was a junior at the time. This is like 2014. And so Mr. Banks was like, hey, like he really needs help. He just got shot not too long ago. He missed a lot of school, he's towards being an F student. And he's not alone, right? He's not a prototypical, but he's a leader. He kind of has a group of friends, yada, yada. So I took this kid out of school with Mr. Banks' permission on like a Wednesday, and I had him meet me in my office on Park Avenue. This is back when Park Avenue in the 40s still had all the high-end dealerships, Mercedes, Ferrari, Audi, etc. So I took the kid and we walked to each dealership. So we started off on like 45th and Park Avenue at the Audi dealership, and then we kept moving up Park Avenue, and eventually we hit the Maybach dealership. And this is back when that car was still in every single rap video. Mm-hmm. And he didn't want to walk into the dealership. And so I pulled him in the dealership. And so we walked past the Maybach 62. And I said, get in. And his hands start to shake. And I'm like, it's okay, it's just a car. So I open up the door, the driver door. And a salesperson sees what I'm doing. And so the kid finally jumps in. And when I tell you, it took him 4 minutes to sit down in the seat. And so when the salesmen come over, who's still a good friend of mine today, Mr. Preston, and we just started having a regular conversation. And he, out of nowhere, starts to say, if you just look at it as a car, no different than what your parents probably have, then you won't actually think it's more than just a car. And when it took him like 15 minutes to just act as if like it's a car. It's got a seat, it's got a pedal, it moves forward, it moves backwards, it has 4 doors. The thing that he probably got the most of that day was access is possible if you just go do it. And so the choice to go to Park Avenue, hopping off the 4 train, the choice to walk into a dealership, the choice to look at something that you just want to look at and you're confident enough to do it, and the choice to actually touch, the wood grain and see the detail. All of a sudden, after that day, he started making better choices. And Mr. Preston actually said to me, he was like, why don't you bring a couple guys from this school down here? I was like, look, I'm happy to. That never worked out, but Mr. Preston ended up being somebody that supported the junior board very early days. Awesome. And now that dealership no longer exists. But I say that long story to say, Eagle Academy, everyone I told that story to bid on it. Every teacher, every counselor, every academic, every leader said exposure is all we try to give them. From the classroom and outside the classroom, from sports to counseling, we always try to give them exposure and access. So, long story short, that was the thing that I knew I wanted to give back to young men of color, period. And then that's one of the pillars of Eagle. So it was just congruent. We were aligned.
Excellent. Thank you for that sharing, for that story. Christina, let me hear from you really briefly, and then I'll segue into a question that I want to ask you about the early days of us starting our board as we know it. So Christina, why did you want to be a part of our Eagle movement?
Yeah, so supporting Black and minority communities is something that, my family has done for a very long time. It's something that they've ingrained, the importance of giving back, ever since I was growing up. I have 2 younger brothers, and ensuring that, they and other young men that look like them have the same access, regardless of, their skin color is so key. And I think, Eagle's mission, really aligns with that, that passion and something that, I wanted to do. And, the Eagle Academy has been able to fill such a gap in New York City when it comes to the education system and, the lack of access and support and resources that, young Black and brown boys have. And so, being able to work on something that is able to, fill that gap and empower them to succeed within the community is something that, I knew I had to get involved with as soon as I heard of it.
Absolutely. So I want to segue into this next question. We'll spend a few minutes talking about, just the history of this junior board as we know it within the Eagle Academy Foundation. So what's so powerful about who's on this panel tonight is that we have, a reflection from the first iteration, which again, it would comprise of Keenan and Christina. And then we have Andrew, Ali, and Tanisha, which comprises of, where we are currently, but together the five of us represent, the six of us rather represent the present in terms of where we are as an organization. So I want to just give some space. I'll actually start with Tanisha and Andrew. I want to hear, as our newest leaders of young professionals of color supporting and leading this movement, what is the new vision and direction of the junior board as we currently know? What are you all up to? What do we anticipate seeing happening, over these upcoming months and beyond? So I'll kick it off with Tanisha.
Well, I think this is the first time that we'll publicly say the name of the junior board, because we've kind of been going back and forth with actually naming what this body of people are. And we've decided on being called Eagle Beyond. And I think that really speaks to the future movement of what we're trying to accomplish, which is the foundation does a really great job of mentoring and guiding the young men while they're in school. And we kind of come in and say, great, you have all these tools. Now let's have you use them. And let's make sure that you have the right resources and guidance and everything that you need to be successful. So Eagle Beyond really encompasses the fact that once they graduate, or right before they graduate, we're really there to say what's next for you. If that is owning your own business or jumping into corporate or doing something vocationally, whatever kind of is in their spirit as their purpose, helping them define what that is, and then helping them move forward and being successful in that route. So I can let Andrew jump into the specifics of how the organization, how we're breaking down that in different committees. But I think overall our goal is to make sure that these young men leave the nest of Eagle and they're able to really fly. I didn't mean to be corny like that, but really, we want them to fly and be successful.
Yeah, definitely. So Tanisha touched on it, Keenan touched on it, exposure, and just that's really what we're aiming towards right now. So really giving these young men as much exposure and accessibility as possible through our own personal and professional experience and through our own networks. I mean, we all know so many people. I mean, we know entrepreneurs, fashion designers, contractors, whoever. So we really want to just provide a space where all these young men of color can have access to different people to really tap into their talents and interests to really build up on that for the next level, which is really, after Eagle, after high school through college. So that's really what we're going to focus on doing. I feel real good about the team we got right here. I mean, it's so much talent on this call and just in the board in general. There's just so much talent to really tap into. So I feel like we're going to make a big impact with the seniors now and with the scholars that's in college.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think, sorry, I was going to talk a little bit more. I think as, you know, the alumni base grows, I think we're at like the perfect point right now where, you know, we're graduating in a few weeks or 2 weeks, or no, we've already graduated at this point. Like a new cohort of young men, right? And so building out that alumni database and making sure that they stay connected and they have resources specific to them being Eagle graduates. College access and persistence is something that's, you know, we're really like diving into the things that we see that may not have gotten all of the looks because we, you know, they've been building out the actual academy. And so now that all these young men are graduating, there's all this extra support that's needed. So we're definitely excited because we've all been there. We've all graduated. We all know how it is to step into the professional world. So we're using, like Andrew said, our resources personally and professionally to make sure that they have everything they need to pursue college if that's what they want to do. And then just be really successful as alumni. Network, as we all know, is super important. Who you know is very important. So really just giving them those tools and making sure that they have all the access that they need.
Absolutely. Thank you all for sharing. Lee, I wanted to circle back to you. You touched on it earlier, and I want for those of you who are, you know, watching this episode, you know, I think this is such a beautiful moment to see how legacy, you know, is happening right before our very eyes. So we actually have the distinction, and we're proud to be in front of it. We have the distinction of having both Aaliyah and Ali, who are serving on our junior on Eagle Beyond. And we also have, you know, Malcolm Banks, who helps us out with a lot of, you know, communication, social media efforts. So this is indeed, you know, a family affair as well. So Ali, I want you to talk about, because you have, you know, of everyone on this call, the most unique spot, right? So what does, aside from Mr. Banks being your father and you growing up, you know, saturated by all things Eagle, you know, what legacy do you want to leave? Why is this work, I'll say it differently, why is this work important to you as an individual?
I would say growing up, my father did leave a good foundation for my siblings and I. And with that, I took that and I just ran with it.
Yeah.
One of my main principles is if you can contribute something to this world, whether it's a talent, knowledge, a skill, anything that you can help your fellow man or woman out, I feel like that's something that you need to share to the world. If that's something that you're holding on for yourself, you're doing a disservice to society. And that's something I've always was raised upon and did for myself. And aside from Eagle, I've always been contributing to society. You know, I went to Ghana. That was a great trip where we, you know, donated a bunch of money and clothes, and it was a goodwill trip we did out there for 2 weeks. And when I went to Morehouse College, I, you know, contributed a lot of my time outside of my studies to helping out in the neighborhood. You know, Tanisha would know this wasn't the greatest neighborhood that our campus was in the middle of, so you know, I did as much as I could when I was out there to help out, and that's something that stays true to me.
Thank you for sharing. I want to, before we pivot into the next part of our conversation, I want to just give some space really, really briefly for Christina and Keenan to share, you know, some of the early successes or just experiences that you all had in the first installment. So again, as you all just heard earlier, this concept is almost a decade years, you know, we're almost a decade in terms of what it means to do this work. So really speak about, you know, some of the early successes and challenges or, you know, that you feel we've had and how, you know, we might move forward as well. So really, really briefly, I want to hear from you, Christina, and then Keenan, you take the floor after she shares.
Sure. So I think, you know, in the first stage, the focus of the junior board was really about sustaining a volunteer program out of the Eagle Harlem School. So we supported and essentially, managed the operations for the for a mentoring program that was, everyone from the junior board plus, their network served as mentors for the 6th and 7th grade scholars at the time in the junior board. And then, the focus sort of shifted into truly functioning as a junior board and really trying to figure out the best way that we can contribute from, a philanthropic perspective to the foundation. There were changes within the foundation that, kind of caused, the junior board to phase down, but, with Johnny in his, current position at the foundation, he was able to, revive it. And I think, we have a really exciting opportunity under his leadership, as well as Tanisha's and Andrew's, to, continue to build upon, the desire and need to, work both with the scholars and also, carve out our own niche, to support the foundation from a fiscal perspective.
Thank you for sharing that. Keenan, really quickly.
Mine was me and Christina. So when we started this, to Christina's point, because she was one of the earliest people to join, it was always about working with the children. So to us, having on-school site staffing with the students was everything. And so the mentor program for the Harlem School was one. The activities we used to do during school days, where a lot of the early junior board members actually used to, before we had super organized weekend work, during the week we would take shifts coming off of work and going to the Bronx School, and we would sit in classrooms. Specifically, I used to spend a lot of time in the, not the mock trial, but one of the legal classes. Then when we got more formalized and we grew the team from just about 3 or 4 to over 10, we tried to have the most thorough interview process, and Christina blew it out with the brightest colors ever. She came with like a portfolio and everything. It was the best. And so funny enough, Christina actually came when we started to level up. And when we started to level up, to her point, we were almost a 50-person strong Saturday effort mentoring kids every single Saturday at the Eagle Harlem School, and it was still just a middle school, having a direct, tangible impact. And with the learning curve and the not graduation rate, their grades, we were able to see on a marking period basis what students struggle with what subject matter were able to increase their grades. So it was one of the most impactful moments for us back in the day, because we were really touching the youth. And I think now Eagle Beyond has such a broader, and it's important to be broader, because the impact for Eagle is network wide, right? It's not school to school. It's not just student to student. It is, are we forecasting the vision to the next generation, right? What was built is phenomenal. The pillars stand, but how are we taking this into the next stratosphere? And that's what's happening now.
Absolutely. And before we shift gears, I just want to acknowledge the fact that, this past Saturday, our Harlem campus graduated the class of 2020. And I was actually, extremely emotional seeing some of the same. There was a set of twins. I don't know, Christina.
Yeah, I've known the twins.
They're grown. They had, a whole bunch of hair, and they eloquently, and I was moved to tears literally, because that was some of the early investments, that we made as a team. So I definitely wanted to shout that out, since you all talked about the mentoring program, and shout out to our colleague Moranji, who was a part of that effort as well. So again, I want to, I thank you all for sharing that. So I want to now just pivot a little bit and talk, because this conversation is about millennials making meaning. And I think that, and I believe that you all can agree, that there are so many misconceptions that society has about millennials, right? There's so many data, so many conversations about, we're entitled, we don't want to do this, we don't want to do that. I could go on and on. So this is a prime example of the fact that we are changing, misconceptions and narratives that have often spoken about us, So I want to just open the floor up with a couple of you to ask, to talk about, like, what do you want people to know about who we are, like, especially our desire to give back in general? What do you think people should know about, us as a board, and then just millennials who are giving back in general? And I want to start that conversation with you, Ali.
You know what? I don't really pay attention to too much outside noise. I know everybody on this call and everybody that I network with is out here getting it. Everybody's out here hustling and getting it, and everyone's an entrepreneur. But the negative views on millennials, I don't know. I personally, I can't relate to it. If you turn on the news right now, you see millennials out on the streets making it happen. We're the ones, breaking down the barrier, police reform, just as the Black Panthers did back in the day. Huey P. Newton, Fred Hampton, all those brothers were in their 20s when they were making it happen. So, it's our time now, and I think that we're making a lot of noise and we're making it happen.
I love it.
Yeah, I agree with Ali, man. I mean, like, millennials, we get a bad rap a lot of times, but everyone's really going hard right now, just because it's not really like publicized all over the news, on the media. I mean, everyone is really going hard. I mean, I know in like my own personal network, a lot of people are doing things. People donate to the homeless, help out different people at schools, all types of stuff. So it's not a fair assessment of what millennials really bring to the table as far as philanthropic work. I mean, a lot of us are really grinding it out every day. It's just not all over social media,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Keenan, wait.
Yeah, I would add in, as an entrepreneur in New York City who's reached some semblance of success, one of my proudest moments is signing leases with Eagle parents. Right?
Yeah.
I got Eagle families as tenants in some of my buildings in Spanish Harlem and in the Bronx. And so as I grew my company with my co-founders and team, it was always just like a super proud moment when I would get an Eagle student to text me a link from REZI, tell me his mom's applying. His mom went through the process and finished and leased, right? And it's super full circle moment when you mentor kids, and then you actually got them housing, and then you actually got them housing that was anti-discriminatory and expedited process. And you really just got to put your money where your mouth is and go back to the same community and serve them with housing. And so for me, as an entrepreneur, I tend not to be super loud on social because I believe economic impact is the number one way, other than legislative, to make change. And so I live it, breathe, and eat it, sleep it every day.
Powerful, man. See, these are the stories that we need to document, and I didn't even have that knowledge, and so we certainly want to amplify all of that great work. Christina, let me hear from you around what do you feel people need to know about millennials and our desire to give back in general.
Yeah, I think to what Ali was saying earlier, we are a very passionate generation, and I think the level of engagement that we have in our communities is, greater than what is being seen or what people are actually saying. I think, particularly for Black millennials, it's more than, just being trendy or being a hashtag. It really is about our future, and we want to make sure that the communities that we live in have our best interests in mind, and we want to be sure to be involved in shaping that and making those decisions about how to best support and give back to our communities.
Absolutely. We have a couple of more questions, and that'll be all of our time tonight. We didn't want to. This is our part one of unveiling all of the work that we're doing as a junior board. And I know for those of you who are watching, you probably had no idea that all of this movement was taking place. So again, we don't want to give you too much today. We just want to, give you a little splash of what is to come, what we've been doing and working on. Tanisha, I want to start this next question with you. So as we all know that we've been in an unprecedented time. We've been in a space where our entire world has never seen what is happening, right? From COVID-19, and then, you know, a few months later with the killing of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and so many other brothers that have been slain, you know, at the hands of police brutality over these past weeks and months. And so with all of that being said, we are, as philanthropists, you know, are at a very interesting spot, right? So I want to hear from you. I want you to start it off. That what do you think the future of philanthropy, I can't even say the word, philanthropy looks like for us engaging with the work of young men of color?
Yeah, and I think that's the most critical thing. You're moving from 2020 to going forward to infinity and beyond, to sound cheesy. What that means is technology is going to be the current and the largest and even more of a larger driver in every segment going forward. You have students going into Eagle Academy today as a sixth grader that by the time they graduate high school, college may not even be the concept that college is, right? Mm-hmm. It may be, you must have a quantitative skill set to have success in the world, or you'll have, you know, or a trade, right? Like, I think the importance of millennials, and especially the engagement with millennials and efforts like Eagle Academy, is it's critical to have us here closest to the pulse, because we live and breathe all the advancements in society on a daily basis. We don't have the privilege of bias to say that's not how I did it, or that's not how I like to do it, or I'm used to. We adapt to everything immediately in real time. And so, you know, when it comes to moving the needle with younger students, I think keeping millennials or having us as decision makers and at the table, you won't be successful without us. We are the future.
Excellent. Excellent. Anybody else want to weigh in really quickly on that?
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I mean, millennials, I mean, we're easily relatable to the younger group. So I mean, like Keenan touched on, having us on board is definitely gonna help. I mean, having someone that's relatable makes things easier for someone to learn off of. So I think that's where we're gonna make our mark at.
Ali, you have anything?
I would say that the future of philanthropy with the young Black man is it's going to have a little bit more of a woke message to it as well. You know, we could already see it's becoming a little bit more popular, that delving more into the African diaspora. You know, shout out to Beyonce. She has Black is King coming out soon. But you can tell people are more in touch with their roots and getting to know our history. So I think that will be, you know, definitely be included in the future of philanthropy.
Thank you, Ali. Christina, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, you know, I think Tanisha also touched on this earlier. I think one of the key things that we'll see from Black millennials as they engage in philanthropic endeavors is, you know, really relating to, you know, the mission of what these of what that endeavor is. So, you know, in the past few weeks, we've seen companies like Sephora and PepsiCo, you know, and Michael Jordan's brand, you know, really have, you know, make true commitments to, you know, improving the, you know, Black community and efforts that will, you know, truly have an impact. And I think that will, you know, kind of help guide where a lot of, you know, these talents are going, right? We would want to be able to support and engage in these broader efforts from a philanthropic perspective, with causes that are actually, you know, moving forward and, you know, pushing a mission that will help better the livelihood of young Black men of color.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you all so much for your reflections. And I want, as we think about closing out, I want to say that, you know, I am just so excited about, you know, the direction, the future of where we're heading, you know, as an organization. And each of you had some, you know, incredible insights about, you know, where we've been and also where we're going. And so, again, shout out to each of you who are on this call representing this panel, rather. And I just want to let you all know that we are the Eagle Beyond comprises of about 18 young professionals. We are filmmakers, we are tech savvy, we are entrepreneurs, as you saw on this call. We are healthcare professionals, lawyers, singers, dancers. I mean, you name it, there is not, a thing that, we don't do. And so again, I am just so excited about the work and the ways in which we're going to impact our nearly 3,000 young men of color. We have about 1,400, alumni across the country and county that our work is going to be impacting, over these upcoming months and weeks. So again, we would be remiss if we did not, give a hearty shout out to Mr. David C. Banks for your visionary leadership. So if you've never heard it from us, we salute you. We thank you because all the way back in 2011, when we tapped my cousin Keenan to start this board, you probably didn't know it was going to have, so much, steam as it and taking such flight, as it has now. And so again, we just have to give, a shout out to you, all the members of the foundation who helped to make, this board stay intact. And so again, be on the lookout. We want to let you also know that, in the upcoming weeks, you probably will have more information about our next installment of Virtual Village. So stay tuned. Tell everybody, we'll start with you, Andrew, how they can follow you on social media, and then we'll close out with a few more announcements.
Said follow me on social media? Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram at Drew430, or my name is Andrew Robotham on Facebook. That's pretty much all the social media I have, and LinkedIn, of course.
Okay. What about you, Ali?
I'm on Facebook, Ali Banks. I'm also on Instagram, Prince Ali B. Probably got to change that soon. That's where you can follow me at, though, for the time being.
Okay, Keenan?
Our social is not really important. So if you are in New York City and you need an apartment, go to www.rentrezi.com. We have plenty of apartments. I'm here to help move the needle for everybody. So my name's Keenan Williams. You'll see me on the website, but go to rentrezi.com. See if you like an apartment we have to rent.
I love it. Who else? Christina.
Yeah, I can be found on Facebook, Christina Beverly, or Instagram, CEE_BEE_EL. All this is from before I got married, so I'll probably be changing my name at some point.
Thank you, Christina. And last but certainly not least, Tanisha.
She's in the woods right now, so she might. Yeah, but her Instagram is Tanisha.
Okay.
Tanisha, we're going to translate for you.
Yeah, Tanisha's Instagram is literally her entire name, Tanisha Colon-Bibb.
We got you covered, Tanisha. Don't worry about it. We got you covered.
So listen, make sure that you follow us on Instagram, the Eagle Academy Foundation, at EAFNYC, on Facebook, Eagle Academy Foundation, all one word. Take care, family. We look forward and continuing to lead during these unprecedented times. You all have a great night, and we will talk to you soon. God bless.